Welcome everyone to another episode of Around the Block Talk. Today we have with us Mr. Abhishek Bhattacharya. He's the co-founder at Whrrl, has spent over 6 years in the field of blockchain and a subject matter expert in this field today. So very happy to have you here today with us, Abhishek. We are looking forward to what you have to share with us.
Thank you, Pratik, for getting me on the show. I'm so happy to be here speaking to the audience that you have on the channel. Yes, you're right. I've been in the blockchain space since about 5-6 years now, and all of my work has been in and around blockchain tech, by implementing blockchain tech for the benefit of farmers, helping them avail real-time, low-cost loans, which we have been doing since the last 2.5 years with a live product. And now we are moving on to decentralized finance, which surely we'll be talking more about on the show. So that's a bit about myself.
That's great to know, Abhishek. So now moving on to the topic that we have for discussion. So Mr. Abhishek has been working to change the life of farmers through the use of blockchain technology. And we would love to know how that is possible and what kind of initiatives are being taken for that.
Sure. So what we built 2 years back is a platform where the underlying technology is blockchain. On top of it, we bring together farmers, banks, government and private custodians or warehouses, all of them together to offer very low cost and real-time loans to the farmers. The farmers are able to avail loans against their crops that they harvest. They can store them with our partners, the partner custodians who are there on the platform, and then they can use those crops as collateral to take loans from the banks. This is something that has already garnered a lot of impact in the lives of more than 18,000 farmers at this moment. And we have partnered with more than 1,400 plus warehouses, most of our footing being in Maharashtra and India. And now we are going global as well with these efforts, where we are signing certain MOUs with organizations in Philippines and looking to the market in Colombia, in South America, in Africa, because Africa also has a very similar agricultural market as to India. In fact, there is much more scope for this kind of a product in Africa than what we have seen in India already in these months. We have dispatched over $6.5 million worth of loans till now to the farmers, smallholder, marginal farmers, some traders, some farmer producer organizations who are networks of farmers. And we are globally one of the largest tokenization platforms, where we have tokenized more than $600 million worth of agricultural crops on our blockchain, which makes us globally the largest. So that's how this platform works.
Sure, that's great to know. So where does the blockchain technology come into the picture, and what kind of things that is blockchain making possible, which were not possible earlier?
Sure. So blockchain comes, there are two facets to this particular problem that we are solving. One of the facets is that the banks who are providing these kinds of loans, they have constantly faced billions of dollars in very regular frauds in this domain, the domain of warehouse receipt finance segment. So in a nutshell, warehouse receipt finance is when you take a loan against any commodity that you have stored in with a custodian. Today, when we are talking about our implementation in India, it is across agricultural crops. Tomorrow, it can be in a different warehouse against gold, loans against gold. So any of these commodities or any other metal, this is how warehouse receipt finance works. Banks have been facing a lot of problems in this domain. Many banks have even pulled out from this domain, which ultimately renders much less capital to the farmers. So, and what kind of problems? These are fraud problems, scams and frauds that happen in this domain. This domain is plagued with that, or has been before we entered the domain. So without blockchain, or with a paper-based process or a digital process, without blockchain or any such DLT technology, what happens is that you can create fake or forged receipts. You can collude between two partners and ultimately either forge the receipts, and then, or you might be giving multiple loans on taking multiple loans against the same piece of collateral, which is a major fraud. Or it can be like the warehouse, the custodian has a capacity of say X metric tons, and you'll see that the total loans against which, or the crops against which loans have been given, is beyond that capacity of X metric tons, right? All these are very common frauds, and big names, Citibank, Standard Chartered, back in China or in other areas, even in India, NSCL scam, 2015, ICICI Bank fraud 2020. All of these scams have shown to us that what kind of a fraud problem exists in this kind of a domain. Blockchain solves that. We all know that blockchain comes with the characteristic of immutability, security, builds a robust platform and network for transactions. So all of this is answered by blockchain. So that is where blockchain technology fits into the equation.
Sure. So in essence, blockchain is able to provide a trusted, immutable database. So that probably makes the verification easier. So in this entire implementation, so I see that when the one point of failure could possibly be when the data is being entered into the blockchain, when it's entering from offline world to the blockchain world. So how do you ensure integrity of data at that point and that everything is working fine?
Sure. So basically, what happens in this case is that we, at the government warehouses especially, the security is there, and the assessment itself, the warehouse in charge does this initial assessment before putting the data on the platform, based on which the receipt is created. In private warehouses or some other warehouses, we have other stringent protocols as well, where we ask the warehouse in charge the warehouse person to click certain photographs with for example, with the truck in front of the warehouse gate, or during unloading, or while the goods have been unloaded and kept in the warehouse gate should be visible. All of this, and the weigh bridge slip should not be more than 3 hours long. So all of these there are multiple factors which we go through just to ensure that as much as possible, to ensure that the data that goes on the blockchain is accurate and correct. And in that process, we also match the geolocation of the photographs with the original location of warehouse when it registered with us. So all of these things are kept into picture, and all of this data is pushed to the blockchain as well. And also later on, the banks have an additional option of appointing a third party, which is called a collateral management agency. They can appoint them to visit the warehouse physically and do an assessment of the goods that is in question, that the farmer or the trader has requested loan against. That data, that report contains a lot of items such as the moisture and all other, fumigation, etc., that has been done, all other details, broken grains, etc. And along with that, the kilograms and the quantity, the what kind of grain is that, what kind of quality is that, all of that data goes onto the blockchain. And then the bank can match these two data, the original warehouse receipt and the new assessment, and eventually make a very informed decision. So it makes the platform, or with all of this in place, makes the underwriting easy.
Right, indeed. So also now, as you mentioned, there's a lot of human intervention necessary for checks and making sure all the data is being fed correctly. So probably moving forward, we would see IoT devices which can accurately measure all the parameters and then directly push the data to blockchain. So what kind of implementations do we have today in terms of IoT, and how do you see, when IoT comes out, when we have mass adoption of IoTs in this field, how do you see that changing things?
Sure. So IoT is something that we have also been researching ourselves into, that how to make our system complete and offer the best possible solution to the banks. In that process, we have found that a lot of advancements have happened in IoT devices. Even the small RFID sensors or the moisture sensors, even small systems just maybe built on our Raspberry Pis. All of these things can also have that much amount of power and can become light nodes on a blockchain network. So they can start pushing data immediately to a blockchain network, which can be then fetched and acted upon by the entire system, right? This effort includes working on CCTV cameras with computer vision enabled, so that any illegal movement of goods inside the warehouse or from the warehouse outside, all of that can be captured and acted upon, and alarms can be raised. All of this, or for example, keyless locks on the warehouse instead of actual physical locks, which can be broken or gotten into by people who are looking to steal. All of this with IoT, and then IoT data directly being pushed to the blockchain without any human intervention to tamper that data. All of this is something that I am seeing that can happen going forward, and we are very hopeful towards it. This is not something we have full-fledged implementation on the platform, but we are definitely seeing this as one of the future possibilities.
Sure, certainly. So in terms of the technological implementation of using the blockchain over here, so what kind of considerations do you have for designing the right kind of blockchain infrastructure? And what kind of infrastructure are you using today to implement them?
Sure. So, this kind of a network needs that we keep the demands that we keep the needs of the banks, which are, these entities, banks cannot have certain restrictions, have certain regulations to follow. They cannot just put all their loan data and customer data on a public blockchain like Ethereum, etc. Just cannot go ahead with that. So we had to architect it in a very specific fashion. We went ahead with a permission blockchain, where all these banks became nodes on the platform. Similarly, all the custodians became nodes on the platform. Any other third parties, they become nodes, as well as we ourselves are nodes on the platform. So this makes it a very closed permission blockchain platform. But definitely, it's a blockchain. It's a very viable consortium blockchain, and that's how the transactions happen. It's much faster than any other public blockchain. That's how permission blockchains anyway work, and it's definitely does come with an overhead cost. But then when we are preventing billions of dollars in frauds, it gets offset. The cost gets offset, and the architecture decisions are very much targeted towards what is good for the banks.
Certainly, indeed. So now you are enabling this kind of data gathering on this blockchain, and I am sure there are more uses uh, that can be built on top of this data. So there could be insurance and other probably financial products. So how do you see implementing those in the future, and what kind of expansion would you see for this platform?
Sure. Talking about this very platform, the first point of expansion for this platform is into any other asset that is there. Just as I said before. In fact, that is what we are doing with a decentralized finance model as well, where we are looking to next. Currently, we are giving loans against agricultural crops because that is a very prevalent domain here in India. A big share of the economy is agriculture, and we know the plight of farmers. My co-founder has a farming background, so all of this comes together, and makes us the right people to launch this kind of a platform for farmers and agriculture and agricultural crops. Going forward, like DeFi, if you go to our DeFi roadmap, the next thing you would see is that going on to the three ways, basically how our roadmap works is: number one, which location to target next, which is like Philippines and Africa on our radar next. Then comes the what commodity to target next. It might very well happen that when we are going to Africa, it might happen that we decide that, okay, let's do agriculture plus gold, because that might be prevalent there. It might happen that in Philippines, we do not do agricultural gold, we do a third kind of a commodity. Any commodity where warehouse receipt lending happens can come on our platform with very minimal changes to the core of the platform. That's how it is built. We are globally the first to do this kind of a blockchain based financing in agri finance domain, and we are Asia's first and the only platform to do any kind of asset backed lending on blockchain. So with that, as you can see, that any asset can come on the platform without much of a headache to us. And apart from that, targeting, so next steps would be to target this to any such other commodity. If you're talking about insurance, or if you're talking about say any other additions to the platform, that already happens now, right? The entire crops are covered with insurance. If you're talking about crop insurance, if you're talking about going into the insurance domain separately, then those are separate ideas which we might tackle later in the future. I was earlier at Policy Bazaar, and of course it's a unicorn in insurance. And I could always see that the kind of scope a blockchain platform can have in insurance. But surely not a lot of companies are working towards that at this moment. And it's not something that's on our radar right now.
Sure, that's great to know. So also we've in this particular show on our talk, we've had other startups working in this particular domain. So most of them are trying to build traceability of the raw material in the crops, and making sure and increasing the authenticity of the data for all these given crops. So what are your views on that particular implementation, and are you also implementing something similar?
Yes. In fact, so that's a lovely question. So, in fact, because of our experience in blockchain, there are many entities or organizations that come to us, discuss with us that how can blockchain solve one of their problems, even if it does not directly relate to what we are doing with Whrrl or with the DeFi platform. The point here is that, blockchain is currently being implemented across many sectors, many domains. right? Traceability, farm to fork models, supply chain traceability, all of those are solutions that can very easily be built on blockchain. And in fact, we are currently working with, we have just started very initial phases. We started working with one such government institution. I'm not, at liberty to take the name at this moment, but we have started with them, and the core purpose is to just bring traceability into that entire segment. And it is a big segment in eastern part of India. So that is something we are looking forward to, and that's completely a farm to factory and farm to miller traceability solution kind of a blockchain platform that we're looking at.
That's great to know. So also in terms of regulations, so this being a new technology, there's a lot of gray areas, and not everyone understands the very digital assets or different things involved. So in terms of regulations, do you face a challenge today, and how do you see that India should actually support with regulations to allow this industry to grow?
Sure. On the contrary, we have received tailwinds because of the regulations that are there in the country at this moment, because there is no regulation against use of blockchain technology. Where people tend to be very concerned about is regulations in cryptocurrency domain, right? And most of our solution till now, the centralized finance solution, has never even discussed cryptocurrency with the banks, right? It is not in picture, and that is why banks are also very forthcoming in getting on board on the solution. So that's why there are no such regulations in the country. In fact, the government the government of India has always been supportive. Even our honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi has always been supportive of blockchain as a technology. You might hear him saying this at Singapore FinTech Festival and other areas where he has been very supportive of the technology. So that's for sure. It's not a problem at all. When we go to any other products or any other platforms where cryptocurrency might be involved, that is still a gray area, which even we are currently working with lawyers and chartered accountants. Even my co-founder is himself a CA by background. So we are very much informed and very much aware of how we need to do certain things, and to not only just help our farmers and customers, but also to be on the right side of the regulations.
Right, indeed. So now coming to this entire space of implementing blockchain for farmers and the crop ecosystem. So what are the possibilities do you see are there in the near future that and what how can the lives of common farmers change with this technology today?
Sure. We are already changing lives, right? As I said earlier, that over 18,000 farmers have been directly or indirectly been impacted by the solution that we've built. And this brings a lot of change in their lives, a lot of impact, right? And that is why in social impact specifically, the kind of social impact and the kind of sustainable development impact that we've been able to create, the proof is that we've received a lot of support and grants from organizations and marquee names like United Nations Development Program, the UN Technology Bank, Google SDG, Amazon, Microsoft, even crypto ones like Binance, etc. We have won 30 plus awards in the last quite a few months, and a lot of grants. All of this is support of our work in social impact and the kind of support we are giving to smallholder and marginal farmers. In addition to that, when we go ahead and we bring in a trading platform for the farmers to trade their commodities from the comfort of their home, or receive, get receivables, obtain receivables finance from the bank. All of these are additional elements that we can bring onto the current platform, which can help the farmer more and more. And see, our farmers are not, I mean, the farmers in India or most of the places are not accustomed to a lot of applications like we do. We have access to Policy Bazaar, we have access to Zomato, we do everything on phone, right? From food to insurance to loans in minutes. For farmers, even I have personally interviewed quite a few farmers even before the pandemic hit us, and that then only itself we got to know that how this kind of a solution can benefit them, right? And this is one of the very first solutions that they have seen or they have used from the comfort of their home, and it is astonishing to them, right? So all these additional features can definitely benefit them going forward.
Indeed. So now, considering all the different stakeholders which are a part of your ecosystem, so the farmers, the banks, and probably government agencies. So I believe there's one challenge with the blockchain implementations today is the education end of it, where you have to explain to everyone, what it is and what it can do and how it's actually working. So how, and especially now you're catering to the section of farmers, and I believe, so how do you actually go about educating all the stakeholders about the benefits, and how do you make them adopt this platform?
Right. The best part is that the farmers who are not that tech savvy, we don't have to explain to them that, hey, do you know there's a very complicated form of technology possibly you've never even heard of, and it's going to be very difficult for you to understand, but that's the kind of technology we are using behind the scenes to give you this loan. So now let's teach you blockchain. We don't need to do that. The only thing that they need to be understanding is that they're getting easy and seamless access to real-time and low-cost loans. The buck stops there, right? On the other hand, the other stakeholders, such as the banks, or going forward, the DeFi lenders, for us, it is not a difficult problem to explain blockchain to them. They are very well aware of the blockchain. In fact, banks are definitely aware of what blockchain can do. Many banks, UBI came up with an entire metaverse implementation just maybe a month or so back. So banks are definitely very aware of what this technology holds, right? What potential this technology holds. So we don't have a lot of effort, does not go into making them understand. It's just that showing them that yes, X problem you face, blockchain solves this problem. Blockchain is your answer to that. Why? You just couple it and make sure that your problem is solved, and let us help you do that. And here's our case study. We have done that successfully for so many farmers across so many warehouses in India. We are going global. We are going to other states. This is the option. This is the answer that you're looking for. And they're pretty much on board. Yeah, the sales cycle are definitely, the cycles are longer, but that's how banks work. But other than that, there's no challenge in educating them per se.
Sure, that's great to know. So now probably we would see multiple similar implementations on a global scale in different countries. So how do you think can all this be made interoperable, and how can we convert this into a bigger ecosystem where everything is connected? What are your views on that?
Sure. In fact, with DeFi, we can very much look to the future, that we can multiple entities and platforms like us can be doing together on a single platform. And because DeFi is open, right? It's open finance for all, essentially. So people can, and because of the cross-chain and multi-chain implementations that are happening, and we are also trying to work on such similar initiatives. So we want to be able to ultimately give access to the same capital across different chains, right? Our platform needs to exist across all those chains, multiple chains, public, Ethereum EVM based chains to start with, and then maybe even Solana or others going forward in the future. And others who are doing the same thing can become interoperable with us by when we provide them SDKs, and then they can either be a DeFi lender on a platform, a liquidity provider. So that way, they might not directly be a pool on a platform, but we can API integrate with them, over a cross-chain implementation, and we can pull in the money from them, like it happens in the general DeFi these days, right? The crypto-based DeFi, the other platforms these days. So that is how we can build a bigger ecosystem, and I see that happening in blockchain everywhere, right? The blockchain environment, the blockchain ecosystem is very open. People are ready to help each other. The code is open, the logic, business logic, everything, GitHub repos, all out in the open, audits open, right? And people are happy, platforms are happy in collaborating with a lot of other platforms. And the kinds of investors and other ecosystem personnel that we're getting in touch with, they are also, they also come up with the knowledge that how to help us build such partnerships, which do not get us lower in our own business. Rather, it increases our business, right? By getting us in the same page with other platforms, and it helps them as well. So that's how it's easy, and it's in DeFi. Of course, not in centralized finance possibly at this moment, but in DeFi, definitely that's a very good possibility.
Indeed, that's great to know. So now probably the loans that farmers are receiving today, they are in fiat currency, and only the data
Yeah,
is on the blockchain. So
correct.
how far do you see a future where they can get loans on the blockchain in the form of crypto? And do you see something that can happen?
In about what, 2 months? In about 2 months, that would be my direct answer to you, to this question. And thank you, Prati, for asking this question, because that's exactly what we're doing with the DeFi platform. And we have already gone on the testnet, right? The Brew Finance platform, we have already gone on the Polygon testnet. We are about to go on we are trying out other testnets, and we are about to go on the mainnet very soon. We are starting our audit later in the next coming week. And once we go on mainnet, it is going to be a wallet-to-wallet transaction, right? It's going to be a DeFi capital in stable coins, starting with USDT, Tether, and the borrow that will be happening, the money borrowed by the farmers or traders would also be into their wallets. Currently, so mostly traders would start using this solution because it needs you to handle a wallet. But soon we are trying to solve that challenge so that farmers and others can be. It can be a very inclusive protocol. So yeah, answer is 2 months. Maybe just wait for 2 months, and we'll be starting with crypto based transactions. After that, we are definitely working with and talking to many exchanges who can help us with off-ramp solutions so that people who want to take it into their bank accounts can do so as well, without creating a lot of problems with any regulations.
Right. So that's great to know that we're soon going to see crypto implementation as well.
Yeah.
So now you have, so with that makes, that covers the entire ecosystem from data to directly receiving, so cutting out a lot of middlemen,
Correct.
perhaps. So
Correct.
can you walk us through if a farmer wants to get a loan today, and what is the procedure they would follow otherwise, and how your platform makes the procedure simpler and easier and shorter?
Sure. They have access to a multilingual app, an Android app. It's a multilingual app available in the regional languages as well, and also in Hindi and definitely in English. They use that to not only take a look at their current deposits that they have done into the warehouses, but also to, on a single click of a button, apply for loan. Right. Going forward, also, this is the same process that they'll be following. Does not matter if they're taking loan from the bank or from our DeFi pool, global pool of global capital. Either way, it is going to be a simple one-click approach. And once they do so, the lender, in this case, again, be it the bank or the DeFi protocol, the DeFi protocol will act automatically. On the other hand, currently in the last 2 years, the bank has been approving the loans manually on the platform that we provided them with. So we have a suite of products, and everyone has a panel to themselves, and the system works seamlessly because everyone can log in into their respective panels and approve loans or reject loans, and do the repayments, etc. All of it on chain. Everything is on chain.
Right, indeed. That's great to know. So apart from your product, what has actually inspired you to get into this blockchain industry and to build this particular product for farmers today?
Sure. I did not, Pratik. So I did not, this is my second startup in blockchain. And earlier also, I've tried doing a startup in blockchain. It went there for quite some time, and then we had to close it off. And so basically, my entry into blockchain, the domain of blockchain, came when I was very academically interested in blockchain. So I started reading, I started writing. I still see some of my, Medium pieces written on smart contracts, etc., back from 2017-18. It's very nostalgic that how things started, right? And I never thought that I'll be building a blockchain solution that helps farmers. I mean, blockchain farmers don't even come on the same page, right? That was not in my mind 3-4 years back, 4-5 years back. But then, my co-founder had a farming background, and then we came together. We worked together in previously as well, and we found the solution to be very appropriate to be solved using blockchain technology. So my involvement in blockchain started academically. I published books. I teach people. Even I do that currently. It's a very big passion of mine to write and to teach people. So I do it on a very, very regular and passion basis, and that's how I stay connected in the blockchain domain, apart from the thing that we're doing for farmers.
So that's really great to know. And so in general, what are the possibilities do you see with the blockchain technology, particularly for a nation like India, where there are many problems and we have a large population, so that makes it more difficult to get the right data, makes the verification more difficult. How do you see this technology transforming our nation?
Right. There are many brilliant use cases that have. Pratik, you can hear me, right? Okay, so there are multiple use cases where a lot of conglomerates are also implementing blockchain solution into their everyday practices, everyday processes, such as Nestle. Nestle put their entire coffee supply chain on blockchain with the help of IBM and AWS. Right? When these endeavors come together, when these endeavors happen, that's when we realize the extent at which the blockchain, a blockchain platform can act, right, or can work at. This is what is needed, right? It cannot be done in a half-hearted solution. It cannot just be that, okay, let's replace databases with blockchain. That's not the solution. That's not the answer, right? It has to be a full-fledged approach. Like, for example, the current supply chain work that we are doing, or the work that we've done with farmers, everything is end-to-end, right? It cannot be. So when, for example, in our situation, when in our use case, when a warehouse comes on board our platform, we mandate them that they have to process all their transactions, all their warehouse receipts on our blockchain platform. It cannot happen that you do 90% on our blockchain platform and 10% separately in an older paper-based or digital process, but because then that's a loophole, right? Similarly, all industries, I believe, have such kinds of loopholes, and it has to be a collective effort. I am seeing that in finance, in healthcare, in fintech and other supply chain and other solutions, people have started coming up with really good, well-formed blockchain implementation solutions, and I see that those solutions are doing wonders. So that's how I believe it is slow. It is slow at this moment, but then again, it's a very new technology, just about a decade old, right? 12, 13 years old. So compared to any other technology and the history that other technologies have had, I believe blockchain is moving at a very relentless, very fast speed. But at this moment, I think, yeah, we'll see how the future unravels. But yeah, it has to be a collective approach, and it'll be a bit slow.
Indeed. So with that, Abhishek, thank you very much for coming on our show, and it was a pleasure to interact with you.
Sure. Thank you, Pratik. It is really a pleasure to interact with you and the audience, and looking forward to any such future collaborations. Thanks a lot.